Hi, my name is Zahra Marwan. I work as an illustrator, both for picture books and as sort of a visual diary of my day-to-day life. There's a large culture of storytelling in Kuwait. I don't know if it's because culturally family gets together and there isn't much else to do other than tell really long, full stories about very small subjects. And oftentimes my mom when we would wake up, would start telling me about what she dreamt in detail. So I like to abstract dreams and include those in the real realm in a way. I try to incorporate elements of where I live now. I love Albuquerque as much as I love Kuwait, and the own strange particularities of both places. I often come back to the story of my family, this why we are Kuwaitis, and I go through statelessness and the idea of citizenship and the luck of coming to a place where people treated me like I belong. And why, of course, is probably because they faced their own recent history of cultural oppression, being indigenous or Hispanic. So it's a question I often frequent, and it's often random, but largely based on memory and family, sense of place and belonging. But I also like stories that have nothing to do with it. When I have an idea, I have to quickly write it down. So I usually start by writing a sentence or two about what I'm thinking, because I forget. I think my memory is really strong, but it falters all the time. By afternoon to evening, I forget what I had initially wanted to draw. So I make sure to write, and then I keep abstracting the sentence and changing the words. And I begin by composing on tracing paper with different elements and working on a larger composition, and then I go in, add or remove things, and then I put the final image. I reproduce it on watercolor paper and clean my lines, add watercolor washes. I try to work with one color to create a cohesion. And I used to really like gouache and the opacity of gouache, but I used to water it down too much. And I switched over to watercolor, which seemed logical. But now I really, really love that I work with watercolors. Because living in a landlocked city, I always feel a longing for the sea. I love the Arab-Persian Gulf and the colors. It's like sometimes turquoise, sometimes blue. It's so warm. And every summer, at the peak of summer, when the heat is so excessive that it just puts you to sleep on accident in the afternoon, I paint in blue. I always wanted to be an artist. I grew up, of course, in a middle class family in a suburb, both in Kuwait and New Mexico, so I wasn't really exposed to what art can be, unfortunately, so it took me a lot of time to realize. What happened was I started drawing my peers for my flamenco classes at the university, and was hired to create a poster for the Flamenco Institute's 30th anniversary poster. And I felt like, wow, someone I really respect in my art. My most important piece of advice is to remain sincere with yourself, to write to yourself in a way which no one else will read, to really develop a voice and sense of self. I feel like that's the most important thing to creating artwork. And it's not hard to maintain focus. I feel very lucky in that I'm really inspired and I care about my deadlines. But what is hard is managing my other responsibilities. I'll put everything aside to do this.